there's a lot to get to here. I'm hoping we get Josh Young tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow night is the kind of award ceremony for the Texas Rangers, and then the next day is Fan Fest. So he's in town. So hoping to talk to him for 10 minutes about Adrian Beltre, about getting ready for this season. He's an awesome dude. Real quick, the top 10 outfield prospects came out, and this is really interesting. Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, I thought would be 1 and 2, but I did forget about this guy. I'm okay with this list. Jackson Chourio of the Milwaukee Brewers is number 1 on the list. And you're probably saying, I don't follow the Brewers. Well, he just
gave him a deal, right?
Yeah, they gave him like an 8-year contract for $80-something million. He's going to be there every day. I believe center fielder. I think he's a center fielder. I could be wrong. It could be like Evan Carter was a center fielder in the minor leagues too, but now he's a left fielder for now. Evan Carter's number 2 and Wyatt Langford's number 3. What's interesting about this, if you remember last year, the draft, Dylan Cruz, stud for LSU, won the national championship. He's number 4 on the list. The number 3 pick in the draft, which we were shocked at the time, right? Because we thought for sure the Rangers were going to get a high school outfielder. Max Clark is number 6 on this list for the Tigers. Number 5 on this list is Walker Jenkins, who was drafted right after Wyatt Langford in the draft for the Minnesota Twins. So literally in last year's draft, pick 2, 3, 4, and 5 are on the top 10 outfielders list as outfielder 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now they're in a different order. Right now they have Wyatt Langford as the number 1 outfielder of that draft class, even though a couple guys got drafted ahead of him. And I think Dylan Cruz is going to be a future all-star for the Nationals. And he could be great. Wyatt Langford just tore up the minor leagues in that 2 months that he went there. I honestly don't have Dylan Cruz's numbers pulled up. But my main tease here was this. Obviously, going into the playoffs, the Cowboys was, you better get to the NFC Championship game or nobody's going to be satisfied. This is going to be a failure of a season from, I would say, 90% of Cowboy fans. There's 10% of Cowboy fans that don't care. Everything's a success because they played a season. Sure. That's fine. You need those fans that as long as you play the game it's successful.
I'm sure there's lots of fan bases.
0-17 was a great year. 17-0 was even better, but they're both great. So Cowboys totally disappoint, losing the first round. The Mavericks look like they're not going to do much. To me, I think they're bound for the play-in tournament, maybe get out of that and then get hammered in the first round, maybe a gentleman's sweep, and then their season's over. I feel like that's determined. The Stars, to me, honestly need to make a trade for a defenseman to get a little bit better because I do believe there's 4 teams that I'm afraid are better than them in the Western Conference right now. So then we look at our World Championship Texas Rangers. They're the world champs. We as Ranger fans have never had the defending world champions as our team coming back. So I ask you guys, it can be 2 different lines. What will be your, this will be a successful season line? This will be a disappointing season line, and you can have it as the same line. I'm just throwing
Missing the playoffs would be disappointing.
I think that is my same line, that whichever side you pivot on is success or failure.
But if you get to the playoffs, you need to get to round 2 in my mind.
Oh, tell me why that is.
Round?
Because you're there. You were that good all season. You need to be successful in the play. You're good enough to be successful. You've proven that you could win a World Series with this group, and it's pretty much the same group.
Okay.
You've proven that you're that good. Now, an injury could kill everything. Corey Seager injury that just is debilitating. That changes a lot of stuff. But getting to the playoffs.
They overcame that twice last year.
Not getting into the playoffs is a failure to me.
Okay.
But then once you're in the playoffs, you at least have to win a round or whatever. So that's where I stand on that.
Kevin, where is your line for success and your line for failure with the world champion Texas Rangers?
Yeah, I think my line is the same, and it's at the playoffs. Like, I realize that might sound like a soft line of success since you're the world champions, but I think being back and not only winning the title, but being a perpetual playoff team is what you need to really keep this thing going. And it looks like you might have taken some steps back, although the roster is still developing.
And I guess that's another thing too, is if you step back and if you get to the playoffs and then lose, does that tell you that you have to go ahead and retool this team altogether? And like you know what certain things are going to be here. Josh Young's going to be here. Evan Carter's going to be here. Seager and Simeon are going to be here. What else? What do we need to do?
I guess let's not ask Bochy that to start spring training, because he has mostly had a team that won the World Series and didn't make the playoffs. They won the World Series and didn't make the playoffs. So I don't know how much turnover they would have after not making the playoffs after winning the World Series. But he has gone through this before, and that makes me feel confident in a weird way, because he hadn't in San Francisco really taken a team and then they won the World Series, and then they came back and won 95 to 100 games and looked like they could do it again. They always kind of dropped off, and you thought, oh, wow, that was surprising. They were world champs and they dropped off. I guess that's who they are. And then the next year they would win the championship again.
And that's one of the reasons I actually remain super optimistic about this team, is because I know some people are concerned they took a step back, but who in the hell thought they would win the World Series at this point?
0%.
Exactly. And so if you're thinking, hey, this looks like a playoff team.
I don't even think the Rangers thought they'd win the World Series at this point.
That's probably true.
So I look at it this way. I am with you guys. I think the line for me is making the playoffs. But remember this. The line changes during the season. People want you to keep – people that don't like you kind of we don't like your show or we don't like your opinions because you change them. Well, as the season progresses, you change your thinking. When the Rangers were going into last year, I thought playing over 500 would be a successful season. When they were 40-20, I had to change my expectation because at that point, 20 games over to start the year off, I'm changing my expectation on they better make the playoffs with this start. It's going to have to be a pretty good collapse here. And let's be honest, they almost missed the playoffs. They played, I think, a game under 500 or 2 games under 500 the rest of the way after 40-20. So they almost missed the playoffs. So our line can change. If the Rangers start off again 40-20, I don't think my line's going to be, hey, just find a way to make the playoffs. I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is a special team again, and it looks like they can do a lot of damage. So I think lines change. Obviously, Chris Young's line changed last year. That's when he went out and traded Cole Reagans for Aroldis Chapman, then had the big meeting with the staff and said, hey, should I go all in here? You guys, I think this. I need your opinion on this, and then I will do what we think the majority opinion is. And so he decided to sell out and go all in. It's interesting listening to Evan Carter because we don't really know the prospects. He played with them, and who knows if Evan Carter's going to be right. He's like, man, 2 of the guys that I thought were going to be really good big leaguers got traded in the Max Scherzer, Jordan Montgomery trades. So that happens. So I am with you guys. I don't know a win total yet, but I'm with you. I want them to make the playoffs again. And you never know what can happen in the playoffs. Obviously, they were an underdog in every series they played in, and probably until the World Series. In a weird way, they were an underdog to Tampa, an underdog to Baltimore, an underdog to Houston, and then
they were the favorite.
Then a little bit of a favorite to the Diamondbacks. So that was a little bit weird the way it all went. But I was just wondering that after last night's Mavs game. I don't want to get into that right now. I know we're going to another topic, but it's just kind of I started thinking, hey, what should my line be for these Texas Rangers? They've never been the world champs. And what should my expectation be right now? And hopefully they sign Jordan Montgomery and they get Neris from the Houston Astros as a free agent. And then my line can change a little bit, because if we get Jordan Montgomery and Hector Neris in this bullpen, I'm going to say, hey, guys, I think my line is 92 wins now.
Maybe, though, that's the right way to do it, Kevin. Remember the movie Spanglish when he said 3.5 stars? Now, I don't want 4, because once you get 4, the expectations are too high. Maybe that is you don't load up the team like the Dodgers because the expectations are too high. When you're good and the expectations aren't too high, and then you live beyond it, everybody goes insane about it.